Let me ask you something real. What if I told you that most men get older women completely wrong? They think she needs care, stability, a house. Maybe, but that's not it. Not really, because as she grows older, a woman becomes more refined and far less predictable. She's not moved by a glance, not impressed by a bouquet, not swayed by smooth words someone rehearsed in front of a mirror. So what touches her? What makes her pause and feel? It's when someone reaches the place she's kept hidden her entire life. Not her waist, not her lips, not her bed, but her mind, her freedom, and the quiet cracks in her heart, the ones she never let anyone see. An older woman doesn't need you to fix her. She doesn't need perfection. She needs presence. She needs someone who sees through the armor and doesn't try to polish the scars. She's not waiting to be saved. She's waiting to be seen. This video isn't for men chasing tricks, lines, or steps. It's for the ones who truly want to understand how to touch a woman without ever laying a hand on her skin. Because sometimes touching the place no one thought to reach is exactly what makes her stay. So don't look away. And if you're ready, we begin now. Touching confidence. Not her mouth, but her energy. You might not be tall, not handsome, not a man who speaks like a stage performer. But if you carry the right kind of energy, the energy of a man who has mastered himself, women won't understand why they're drawn to you, but they will be. Confidence isn't in what you say, it's in your spine, in your gaze, in the silence between your words. It's how you walk into a room without making noise, without putting on a show. And still, people, especially women, can feel your presence expanding into the space. He who angers you conquers you. That's what Epictetus said. The man who reacts easily has already lost control. Women aren't drawn to the emotions you show, they're drawn to the emotions you contain. According to research from UC Berkeley, women are about 10 times more sensitive to nonverbal signals. Eye contact, body posture, breath rhythm. In other words, before you even speak, they already know what kind of man you are. The more you try to impress her with words, the more she senses your lack of internal grounding. But if you stay silent, and you're not afraid of silence, she'll start to wonder, what is this man thinking that he doesn't need to speak? Simple comparison. One man walks into a cafe, eyes down, nervous hands, speaking too much to fill the air. The other walks in, eyes forward, says nothing, sits, and just exists. No one says a word. But women will feel instinctively which one carries danger. The Stoics call this self-mastery, a quiet strength that dominates without noise. No reactive behavior, no need for approval, just presence. So stable, it doesn't seek recognition. According to the psychology of attraction, women feel safer, more drawn to men who are comfortable with silence. Why? Because that silence isn't empty. It's a signal of biological control. Something a woman's brain reads as, he's a natural leader. You don't need endless words. You just need to stand tall. Open your chest, hold your gaze, speak slowly, breathe evenly, and stop chasing reactions. In that moment, she'll feel like she's facing a mountain. Calm, distant, unmoving, mysterious, and impossible to ignore. She may not know why she's pulled toward you, but she won't want to walk away. Women don't need you to perform. They want to feel your steadiness, so they can be women without needing to defend themselves. And when you're not trying to touch her, that's exactly when she feels touched. But confidence is only the beginning. That first spark of attraction is instinct. If you want her to think of you long after you're gone, you need to learn how to touch her mind. And that is the next chapter. 2. Touching her mind. What makes her tremble in silence? There's a kind of man who doesn't need sweet talk, who doesn't flaunt his body or his bank account. He just looks at her, asks the right question, and suddenly her whole mind is thrown into quiet chaos. Older women aren't swayed by appearances anymore. They've been through it. They've bathed in promises and shattered from naivety. Now, they're not seeking short-term emotions. They're looking for someone who can wake their mind. And if you know how to touch her mind, you'll unlock her deepest door. This isn't the kind of intelligence you show off. It's not about name-dropping books or debating just to win. It's in the way you ask a question that makes her pause. It's in how you listen. Not to reply, but to truly understand how she lives. In Come As You Are by Dr. Emily Nagoski, there's a powerful insight. Cognitive arousal is one of the most essential triggers for deep emotional and sexual response in women. Put simply, her mind has to switch on before her body allows anything else to follow. And what switches her on isn't how skilled you are, it's how deep you are. A man who can speak with logic might impress her, but a man who can say, I think the real pain isn't being left behind. It's loving someone you can't fully open your mind to. That kind of man makes her stop, swallow her words, feel something shake inside. The tremble doesn't show on her skin. It lives in her chest, and no one can see it, except the one who touched it just right. You don't speak to steal the spotlight. You speak to stir thought. And women who've lived, they treasure the man who can do that without raising his voice. Zeno once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we may listen more than we speak." You don't need to be a genius. You just need to genuinely want to understand and not be afraid of silence. That moment when she's mid-sentence and suddenly pauses. She's not asking for a solution. She's feeling you. She's sensing whether you're steady enough to hold space for her vulnerability. According to research from Harvard Medical School, women over 35 are more drawn to men who expand their mind, not just stir shallow feelings, especially during times of post-traumatic growth, when their psychology shifts towards seeking meaning, not just stimulation. So if you want to go deep, don't try to say the right thing, say the true thing. Be silent enough that she can hear herself when you're there. When you do that, you don't need to touch her skin. You're already inside her in a way others can't reach. But if you want her to stay, touching her mind won't be enough. She needs to see you have your own world, a territory that doesn't depend on her to exist. And more importantly, can't be controlled by anyone. That is the next part, where real attraction begins to form. 3. Touching her independence. The place she wants to enter but can't control. There's a truth, almost ironic. Women don't love you because you need them. They love you because you don't need them, but still choose to stay. Sounds illogical? But in the world of emotionally mature connection, this is what draws them in and what makes them feel out of control. She won't say it out loud, but deep in her subconscious, your independence is the most powerful, silent invitation. Not the cold, distant kind, but the kind of man who has his own world, fully alive within it, and no one enters unless they truly belong. Ask yourself, when you're in love, do you stay centered, or do you let someone else dictate your rhythm? That answer is your true measure of attractiveness, especially to a woman who's walked through pain, through fire, and now knows the weight of presence. Mature women are tired of clingy men, the ones who call every day, text every hour, make plans based on whatever you want, babe. It sounds sweet, but it suffocates them, because a man who has no self will eventually drown her in his emptiness. I once met a woman in her 40s, successful, sharp, and still carrying the memory of one man. I asked her, "What do you remember most about him?" She paused, then said, "The moment he walked away, without looking back. No anger, no regret, just clarity." And in her eyes, there was still a trace of awe. According to Psychology Today, women between 35 and 50 feel most drawn to men with clear self-possession, even when they're no longer around. The independence they find attractive isn't just financial, it's emotional sovereignty. It's the way you don't lose yourself in any relationship. You turn down a date to finish your mission. You don't reply instantly because you're deep in focus. You love without attachment. You walk beside her without losing your compass. True strength doesn't shout, it doesn't flex. It holds its axis steady, even while loving deeply. Real independence is when you can say, "I choose you, but I don't belong to you." A sentence that makes her take half a step back. Not because she's hurt, but because she knows. This is a man who cannot be possessed. According to Harvard Neuropsychology Review, women feel stronger attraction toward men who are not fully available or whose lives are so full that they can't be easily reached. They're not drawn to your distance. They're drawn to what's larger than them inside you. You don't have to be mysterious. You just need to live your truth and let her see. If she enters your space, she won't lead it. She'll have to adjust her breath to match your atmosphere. Independence turns you into unexplored territory. You open the door for those who earn it, but you never hand over your map. And in a world full of men who are easy to read, you become the question without a ready answer. But there's a place even deeper than independence, a realm where logic has no voice, where a single sentence, a song, a memory is enough to pull her back, even if she's already walked away. 4. Touching memory, where emotion lives beyond logic. Not everyone remembers the exact day they fell in love, but almost everyone remembers a small moment they could never forget, a song, a sentence, a glance during the last light of day. No one tries to remember it, but the brain keeps it, because in that instant, emotion rose beyond reason. Mature women often don't fall in love for obvious reasons. They fall because something touched a memory they couldn't control. You don't have to be the perfect man, but if you make her feel something familiar, something she once had or once lost, you become part of her emotional map. And once imprinted there, you're hard to erase. According to the Journal of Neuroscience, emotional memories are stored in the amygdala, a region not governed by logic. In other words, emotional memories don't need logic to exist. They live through feeling and can ignite from the smallest signal. I once knew a man who was nothing special, not handsome, not wealthy, but every time he sat in silence, twisting an old silver ring on his finger, she would freeze for a second, because that gesture mirrored her father, a man she lost many years ago. He never knew, but she could never forget. This isn't a tactic. No one can perform a memory for someone else. You don't need to force emotion, you just need to be real, and sensitive enough to notice what makes her pause for half a second. When she laughs because you said something just like someone from her past. When she turns away because you accidentally played their song. When she goes silent, not out of anger, but because you triggered a room she locked away long ago. Women aren't drawn to you. They're drawn to the version of the past you unknowingly made them feel again. Memory is the only thing that can make a rational person suddenly soft. And if you're present in that moment, not interfering, not trying to fix anything, just calm, grounded, she will remember you for a very long time, even if she doesn't know why. Memory is the residue of thought. Daniel Willingham. The more a feeling is thought about, the deeper that memory embeds, and the person who awakened it becomes forever linked to that original emotion. So don't rush to fill the silence when she drifts away. Don't try to explain if she says, "This feels strange. I don't know why." You don't need to understand. You just need to be there when a piece of her memory returns. She can resist your words, but she cannot resist her own feelings. If you want her to remember you, don't try to own the present. Let yourself become the one who once, unknowingly, touched her past. Because when the past returns, the future belongs to the one who brought it back. And in the end, there is something even deeper than memory, a space every woman longs for, regardless of age, history, or experience. A space where she's not judged, where she can exhale without holding it all together, where she can be herself without needing to be fixed. 5. Touching her freedom, the place where she's free from judgment. There's one thing most men don't understand about older women. They don't need your advice. They need you to let them breathe. She's loved. She's sacrificed. She's lived for others more than for herself. And in all the relationships she's walked through, what exhausted her the most wasn't the breakup, but being judged for simply being herself. The more mature a woman becomes, the less she needs someone trying to fix her into a better version. She needs a man with enough space inside him to let her unfold. I'm not talking about leniency. I'm talking about a deep kind of freedom very few people know how to give. The permission to simply be without needing to be corrected. Have you ever heard a woman say this? Something about you makes me feel like I don't have to try. I don't have to hold everything together. If you've heard that, you've touched freedom in her. According to research from the University of Rochester, when someone feels free to express emotions without fear of judgment, their brain releases serotonin, a chemical tied to trust, relaxation, and the feeling of being accepted. In other words, the less judged she feels, the more she wants to open up. The more she can be herself, the closer she wants to be with you. She doesn't need you to agree with everything she says, but if you can listen without rushing to correct her, you're already different from 90% of men out there. Most men make a common mistake. They think they need to solve the problem whenever a woman shares her thoughts, but she's not asking for a solution. She's asking, can you be still enough to hold me as I am, even when I'm messy, confused, and imperfect? If you can do that, she'll feel like 10 years of pressure just fell off her shoulders. No more hiding, no more pretending to fit the mold of the perfect, strong, beautiful, independent woman. Just breathing, and you, still there. The one who makes us feel loved is not the perfect one, but the one who makes us feel we don't have to be perfect when we're with them. That's what a woman once told me after leaving her husband. That kind of freedom is rare, because to give it, you have to overcome your own need to control. You have to be grounded enough not to panic when she doesn't match your expectations. The man who's lived enough understands this. Love doesn't need fences. It needs space. Space to breathe, to break, to come back to who she really is. And when you stop trying to make her better, she'll become her most beautiful self. Not because she's fighting to protect herself from you, but because she doesn't have to anymore. The freedom you offer becomes the one safe place she can't find anywhere else. And once she feels that, you won't need to hold on to her. She'll choose to stay. And now, you've reached something most men never will. She doesn't need you to touch her body first. She needs you to touch her mind, her freedom, and her emotions, the place where logic no longer leads. In the end, she doesn't want you to touch her body first. She wants you to touch her mind, her freedom, and her emotion. She won't say it, and you won't find it written on social media. But deep inside, every woman who's lived long enough, who's loved deeply enough, is waiting for a man who knows how to touch without using his hands. It's not that her body has grown cold. It's that her body no longer trusts until her mind has been awakened. It's not pride. It's the memory of giving too much too soon and paying for it with loneliness. You touch her mind when you make her think in ways she never has before. You touch her freedom when you give her space to breathe without trying to fix her. You touch her emotion when you're there at the right moment, quiet in the right way, without trying to understand everything. Older women don't need another person to simply fill a void. They need someone who makes them feel like they can finally stop holding it all together. And when you become the place where she feels safe being exactly who she is, you're no longer just someone who came and went. You become someone she wants to keep. Because there are many men who've touched her skin, but the one she remembers, even when he's long gone, is the one who touched the place no one else ever could. And if you are that man, you won't need to chase anyone. Just hold your ground and let her choose to stay. The end is the beginning. And sometimes all she truly needs is someone who knows how to touch without needing to hold. Thank you for watching this far. If you saw yourself in these words or once met a woman like this, share this video. Not to go viral, but to help create more people who know how to love without causing harm. To help create more men who understand some things can't be held, but when touched right, they stay for a lifetime. And if you're still here, still listening to these final seconds, thank you, not just for watching, but for listening, because this world needs more people who know how to listen and fewer people who only want to fix. See you in the next video. Still the things no one says out loud, but everyone needs to hear.